I was scrolling through some of my social medias earlier today and earlier this week, and I noticed a lot of stuff about the special needs gala that Tim Tebow. I'm not sure if he's the one who organized or if he's just one of the ones who organized it. The special needs gala that Tim Tebow helped put together and promote. Tim Tebow happens to be a personal hero of mine, and special needs a cause that is dear to me because I have autism. And some of the comments about, well, not some of the comments, some of the posts had commentary by the posters about how, people used to always say that, oh, Tim Tebow has to be hiding some dark secret. We're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. One or two of them even admitted that they expected that to happen. But, oh, Tim Tebow turned out to be as great as a guy as people said he was. And that actually got me thinking about something. Because, like, very late 2000s, early 2010, so when I was a kid, it was popular in some, particularly online places, but in mass media as well. Because remember, the internet did not quite dominate every second of every conversation at the time back then. It was on its track to, but it hadn't yet. And so even outside of the echo chamber of the internet, it was definitely pretty popular just to bash Tim Tebow. And when I say bash, I'm not talking about anyone who ever had something critical to say about the guy. Because if you perhaps felt that that his style of play did not lend itself well for the National Football League, that he was overrated, that he was taking attention away from athletes who deserved as much, if not more, attention, or if you just disagreed with his political or religious views. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people for whom it was the epitome of the one of the most popular lines was just, no, Tim Tebow's fake, Tim Tebow's a phony, Tim Tebow's full of himself, he has to be as dirty as anybody else. We're just waiting, just give it time and we'll find out what he's really like, etc., etc. Just that especially certain people, like, I'm talking the Daniel Tosches of the world, who are just waiting, I know, as a matter of time before the inevitable and self-evident day when Tebow was eventually revealed to be whatever, low life they thought he had to be. About 2 decades later, that hadn't happened. And that stuck with me for a while. And the conversations about with the special needs gal in the last week, I think I've put something together about that. And I've put together, I'm going to draw from some from the world of Marvel Comics, specifically Ultimate Marvel. Now, for anyone who doesn't watch much Marvel, for anyone who doesn't watch much Marvel, perhaps I should say anyone who doesn't read much Marvel. The Ultimate Marvel is an alternative continuity published by the same company, a lot of the same artists with the same characters, but is much darker. In Ultimate Marvel, you have heroes who are much less morally unambiguous. You have heroes who are more willing to use lethal force. The Hulk in Ultimate Marvel is actually a straight up villain. And in Ultimate Marvel, there is a scene where Kingpin tells Spider-Man. So in the Ultimate Marvel world, superheroes are very unpopular with the public. And in Ultimate Marvel, there is, I don't even remember which comic it was, but there's a comic where Kingpin gives Spider-Man a little speech. Spider-Man in Ultimate, like in the regular timeline, is kind of younger and maybe a little naive. And Kingpin gives Spider-Man a speech about how the majority of people, at least in the Ultimate Marvel, or at least is how Kingpin sees it, the majority of people are sheep who just want to do the bare minimum asked of them. Just checking the boxes, keep the line rolling, just do the bare minimum expected of them. and then at the end of the day have someone like Kingpin hand them a big cookie. Thanks for checking out all the boxes. And when ordinary people see Spider-Man or any other superhero risking their lives to save people they don't even know, going out of their way to help others at no benefit of themselves, that tells the average person that they don't really deserve that cookie. And that's why a lot of people in Ultimate Marvel dislike superheroes. So I think there's a bit of an aspect of that with some of the people who attacked Tim Tebow. Is that, once again, I'm not talking about anyone who criticized him for anything, but the people who do nothing but bash him. I think that's part of what it was. And to paraphrase something that, now ironically, to jump to the rival publisher, I think it was in The Dark Knight. It's the one that has Heath Ledger playing the Joker, which I think is The Dark Knight. I know Batman tells Joker after a particular plan of his fails something like, you wanted to prove that everyone is as deep down is as rotten as you are. Because, without giving a spoiler, let's just say Joker had a plan that relied on people making a selfish, cynical choice, ordinary people making selfish, cynical choices, and it failed. And I don't want to say that people who committed the oh-so-horrific monstrosity of bashing some athlete 20 years ago are rotten deep down or whatever. But I think there's a similar attitude at play there. Just people want to feel better about themselves for whatever their own failings are. So they look at someone who does not have those failings, and they tell themselves he or she has to be just like me or even worse deep down. I don't need to get better. Everyone's just like me deep down. And Tim Tebow, on some level, is an example of how no. And just if anything, Tebow's an example how everybody, regardless of who you are, you got to go out there and try to make yourself better every day. And that's what I'm going to do the rest of the day, the rest of my life. And I hope that you go out there and find ways to make yourselves better as well. That's all I have to say. God bless.